kind of dominate from a classroom setting. And I that's a strong word, but like that's kind of like a conquer mentality that I went into. And it played off because I met some really, really good people. And because of those people is why my career took off. But that's a little later down the road. But yeah, when I was at Full Sail, I was still kind of on my bullshit that I was on forever. And I would try to figure out ways to kind of I was getting A's on the tests, but they had an attendance policy, right? And I didn't want to show up for class because I already know this part. I'm just trying to get in the studio. Let me just get through this, and I would fail classes based on attendance. That sucked. And so then I'd have to redo it. Well, at Full Sail, you do one class a month. It's supposed to be like a semester. It's an accelerated program. So as soon as I fail a class, all my friends are gone. They went on to the next class. They went on to this. So I'm like, fuck. Now I started being like, well, I can still see them and hang out with them, and I do, but I'm not eating lunch with them every day. I'm not doing, because you do 8 hours of classes a day. And so yeah, during at that time, I kind of just doing too much. And I didn't like living in Orlando. I didn't like the weather. I didn't like the people. People in North Carolina at the time just seemed a lot nicer. I didn't really understand the culture too much. And I don't really know. I just kind of went down there with that mentality of, oh, it'll work out. But wasn't really doing the work to make it work out. And so, yeah, at the time, I had just recently found out that the girl, the one that I was in love with, I didn't find out she was cheating on me till I had gone down there. And we were still, even though we weren't together, she would come visit me. We would hang out. And I was going to go buy her an engagement ring. And I told her, and she was super excited. And apparently she broke it off with whatever guy she'd been cheating on me with, because she decided, okay, I actually do want to be with Kevin. And and the guy calls me and he's like, hey, I just want to know what's up between you and her. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, well, she just says you're her friend and you just do music with her and all this stuff. And basically he got mad that she was trying to break it off with him. So he ruined the stuff for us and called him, was like, basically, I've been with her, since before you left and blase, blase. And I was like, dang. And I was devastated. So I was already having a hard time. And then that wrecked me. And I didn't. And then all on top of that, still having the anxiety, it was still pretty heavy at that time. And it just everything spun out of control. And I just wasn't able to finish school. And I was just making bad decisions. And I ended up, dating this person that I didn't really even like that much. And she ended up getting pregnant. I found out she got pregnant the same time I dropped out of school because I had failed another class because of attendance and I could only fail 2 classes. And so I had to take another month break and I had to renew my school loan. It was all this stuff at once.
Oh my God.
And I just was yeah, it was crazy. And I'm like, all right, man, screw it. And I went back to North Carolina and I tried to figure it out, and at the time I was still wild. I was still, I guess probably, more than anything, it was just, I was trying to cope with all the stuff. And the only way I knew was to distract myself. I wasn't doing anything super crazy, but partying all night, kind of still being a college kid. Well, I'm almost 25 now at that point. And it's that's getting a little old to not really have a job and not really do these things. And so I ended up after a couple of weeks of that, my mom's like, look, you can't do this. I'm not putting up with you doing this. And I was like, okay. And I went and I found a studio that was in Charlotte. It was in a place where, what do you call it?
Warehouse building.
Yeah, essentially. It was a practice room facility. But there was 3 or 4 studios out of it. And a guy in there, he was an R&B singer. And he had a deal and had a single. I don't think it was ever huge, but it was on the radio. And, they did a big video on MTV. He was in there during the 90s when there was actually a lot of money and, being thrown around, big budgets and stuff. So he understood that side of it. And so he let me intern out of it. And I was just working. So I was just working. And I wasn't even getting paid. But I brought that up. It wasn't him saying, oh, I can't pay you. But it was no, I just want to work. It's cool. And so I was just putting in hours. I was doing 50, 60 hours a week in here probably, and working with some really cool artists and just developing my skills. And then it got to the point, okay, well, this baby that I'm about to have in Florida is the girl was still pregnant. She kept the baby. And I'm like, all right, I have to start making some money. And
wow.
so he started paying me. He paid me like $100 a week, and which compared to what I was doing, but at least I was in the studio. At least I was working on things, and kept getting my skills together, and I would start to reach out to other engineers, so like people that I knew, like they were in a position of what I wanted. And after my daughter was born, I approached her mother, and I was like, hey, let's make this work. Let's be together. I want to be there for my kid. And so I was flying back. I would take the little $400 I was making a month, and I'd fly back for one weekend every month down to Orlando. And that lasted about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. After that, I was like, you know what? I can't afford this. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not making enough money here. I have a kid now. And I went to Orlando. So I moved down to a place called Claremont. And there I didn't do any music. So a year I didn't do any music. And this was when I was 25. And I worked at Hilton Grand Vacation. And I learned social skills because I worked in the marketing department, but I was a greeter who was like that's a super long story. But I was a greeter. And so I learned that. I learned for the timeshare stuff. So Hilton Grand Vacations, like you would think we were walking you in from the front, but we're really asking you like questions like, oh, what are you in town for? So we say, okay, if they're in business or if they're for vacation. Oh, where are you guys from? What do you do there? We'd ask you what you do to figure out maybe how much money you make, because they had to make at least $50,000 to get pitched this timeshare. And then we'd bring you over to the timeshare people. It was just this crazy hustle thing. But I learned some cool social skills. I learned how to talk to people I didn't know, learned how to ask questions. So that was cool. Yeah. But I knew I had to leave. So I ended up getting a job as a groundskeeper back in Durham, because I knew there was an engineer there, a guy by the name of King James, who I'd been calling, and he'd been a mentor to me along this journey. And I was like, well, at least if I can get back to Durham, I can be close enough to where I can practice my mixing skills, and then maybe I can make something happen. And so I go back and I try to open up a studio there after a few months, and I worked there like full time on top of my full time job, and I didn't make any money. And instead of saying like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe this doesn't work, I'm like, I'm just in the wrong place. Because I was like, I'm good. I know I'm good. I was good when I was in Charlotte, 2 years ago. So I'm still good. I've been practicing. I know more. So then I ended up marrying the lady I had the kid with, and we moved to Charlotte, and we took the money from the wedding to move to Charlotte. And I was supposed to have a job, and the job when I got there really wasn't a job at a studio here in Charlotte. And I think I made $100 the first month I worked there. And I was like, look, I can't do it. And then there's another engineer there, and he was a little territorial at the time. And one of the clients that was in there, somebody that was with the client, was like, hey, yeah, we're looking for an engineer. We need some mixing done. I was like, that's what I do. That's my bread and butter. I could track. I was really good at tracking. But my bread and butter at the time, even then, was mixing. Yeah. And so then the engineer was like, yeah, we need to talk to you. Like, him and the owner sat me down. He's like, yeah, you're trying to take my clients and stuff like that. I'm like, first of all, your cell phone is the studio's cell phone. I haven't got any work this month. I made $100. I got a kid. I moved down here because I was supposed to have a job, but you're the one making the schedule, and the only person you schedule to work is you. I'm sorry if somebody came at me. I don't know who they are. They told me they need a mixer. Maybe if you're doing a better job, I think I said something like that. I said something smart, like maybe if you were doing something different, maybe they'd want to use you or something like that. And I'm not a real aggressive person, but I got kind of aggressive that day because I was frustrated. And
yeah, it sounds like sounds like it's been a frustrating couple of years for you at this point, right?
So everything's kind of crazy rough. I ended up leaving there, and I worked there for maybe another month. And then there was stuff like where people would come in, like I didn't know, like all these people had a key. And then like there was like dangerous stuff going on sometime where I felt uncomfortable. And I was like, this isn't a safe environment. Let me step away from this. And I got a job at another studio, and I got a job at Guitar Center at the same time. So those people that I met back in Full Sail, they had left, graduated, and moved to LA and moved to New York. The main person being a guy named Jerry Edward. And he was my best friend when I was in school over there at Full Sail. But he went on to LA, and he started working for Pharrell and did stuff for him. Then he was working for Electric Feel, and he was working for some other companies where he was doing A&R. He was like a senior A&R, ended up being stuff. And he brought me in working on the 88 Rising stuff. So with like Rich Brian and this guy named Augusto 8, Joji, like those people. so he started feeding me those. And at the same time, I was working for a producer named Kane Beats. So Kane Beats did Bottoms Up, right above it, Bedrock Super Bass from Nicki Minaj. It's still Nicki Minaj's biggest song. And now he was on the downward trajectory of his career. He kind of hit like the peak in the year before I met him, and then was kind of on the way down. But I was mixing all the stuff that he was placing for APG. So I was learning how to produce better. I was learning better about like song selections. And I got put on from a guy named Vinay. Vinay, I did production with, I tried to do some beats and some tracks with when I was in Orlando. I met him through that, but he ended up getting signed to Kane's company. And Vinay was super awesome, really good dude. He was from Canada. And so like I was started to work all these different angles from all the connections that I'd made over the years. And they all started coming through. So stuff with Jerry. And then, so with Kane Beats, I was assisting. He was still touching big records, and I got my first gold record. And as soon as I got my gold record, Jerry was like, hey, man, I think I can use you for this project. And so Jerry put me on the 88 Rising stuff. And so I started doing that, and I was starting out, now I'm dealing with labels. Now they're small. It's small people. But I was taking, Jerry was feeding me placements. And then I was still using the bigger records or dealing with Kane. And I was dropping that where I needed to drop it to get me in the door. And then I built a studio in Charlotte. So that was from 2014 to 2016. The end of 2016, I built what the original Black Pearl studio was in there. And it started out, it was just like a room, a control room. And it had, we had like some JBLs. I put them in wall. I took a small loan out, and I just found like a random under the table contractor. Good dude, my buddy Paul. I still get him to do stuff today. He's a good guy. But he built that whole studio. We put the lights in. Charlotte really hadn't had a studio that kind of looked the part. And I realized like working at the first studio before I had the kid, they did a good job of how it looked, but they didn't really do anything acoustically to it. So it was a rough place to work, like to get a good sound from. So I was like, well, I want to make sure that I have a place that looks super cool. Because the next place I worked at, it was Maximus. So that was his first studio, a guy named Ira Parker, good dude, but I liked the way it looked, but I always felt like certain aspects of it could look better. And not judging anybody. It's like, it's hard to run a studio. It takes money to do cosmetic things. And he would, as he went along. But I was like, I'm going to make sure that when I make a studio, that it's going to be exactly how I want it to look. And that's what I did. I did like an all white room with like the hue light systems, and I did cool angles and white floors, and it just really looked the part, and people hadn't seen that yet. And so that really helped me take off. And so like I got the stuff coming from Jerry, the stuff coming locally from the studio and the notoriety the studio is getting, and then the stuff coming from the Kane side of things. And it all just kind of started weaving together.
It's like you make all these connections over a lot of years, and you never know what's going to pan out in what direction, but eventually you're ready for the opportunity when it all kind of comes together.
For sure. And that's the kind of thing, like it's not in this, you do play a long game, but it's not like a long game with one intentional target or one person. You're like, okay, I'm going to make sure I put in 8 years of work with this person. It's like, it just happens. You basically, in this industry, you just don't quit.
Right.
And you find other people that just don't quit. Well, it's inevitable. If you're not quitting, you're having to adjust and find another angle, another lane. And what you realize is like, when you do start running into where the money is, someone always needs to bring you on. So someone always needs help, or like there's a situation where this person, okay, well, let me connect you with this. And then somebody will connect some money with you and some things. And yeah. So I was doing that. So I was already getting kind of plaques from the Kane situation. And then Jerry was bringing me some stuff that was doing good. And then I'd been working with all these Charlotte artists because I reached out to all the producers. So I was like, oh, let me mix all your records. And then they were getting like, I had worked in some of the other studios, so I knew what they were doing and weren't doing. So I got a good vocal chain. I did like I had a U87, and I had at the time I had an Avalon 737, and I built a nice booth. And so I had good acoustics, I had a nice clean sound, especially as a mixer. It was super easy to mix, and people were coming through, and I was just pumping through clients, and one of the clients actually happened to be a guy, he went by Baby Jesus, Jonathan Kirk, and he goes by DaBaby now. But at the time, he was really good, super smart dude, and he would come in, and I was mixing records for him because he was getting a lot of production from this guy named Sean the First, and I was mixing all these records for Sean the First. He started coming in, and I started building a relationship with him, and he tried a couple different spots, and he'd always come back to me, and he hit. he hit. And
what was his first big song? Was the Suge, right?
Suge was the first big song. You know, he went through a situation where I had linked him